Greetings, I'm Dillis. I, in my 38 years, was lucky enough to have 2 lovely children and a wonderful husband. It's a pity that I had to go through a lot of trials before that. But no, it's not a pity at all. They definitely made me stronger. Growing up in our small, conservative town felt like living in a bubble, sealed away from the rest of the world. The streets were always quiet, the people polite yet distant. Our house, an old Victorian structure, sat on the edge of town, as if trying to hide its secrets from prying eyes. I remember one evening, sitting in the living room with my mother. My mother, a stern woman with sharp features, was knitting in her usual chair, her eyes focused on her work. "Mother," I ventured, breaking the silence, "why don't we ever talk about what you and Father do for work?" She didn't look up from her knitting. "Dillis, there are things in this world that are better left unsaid. Your father and I do what we must to provide for this family. That should be enough for you." "But Mother, the other kids at school talk about their parents' jobs all the time. It feels strange not knowing." Finally she glanced up, her gaze piercing. "Dillis, we are not like other families. Our privacy is our strength. Do not ask about things that do not concern you." The conversation was over. I knew better than to press further. My mother had a way of ending discussions, with a finality that left no room for argument. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I could hear my father coming home. The sound of his footsteps was heavy, weary. He rarely spoke much, and when he did, it was in hushed tones, as if afraid of being overheard. One night, curiosity got the better of me. I crept out of bed and tiptoed down the hallway, peering into the living room where my father and mother were talking. "Dillis shouldn't ask about our work," I heard my father say, his voice low. "It's for her own good. She doesn't need to know the burdens we carry." "But she's getting older," my mother replied, equally quietly. "She's starting to ask questions. What if she finds out?" "She won't," my father interrupted firmly. "We've kept our secrets this long. We'll continue to do so." I quickly retreated to my room, my heart racing. Their words haunted me, filling me with more questions than answers. What were they hiding, and why was it so important that even their own daughter be kept in the dark? As I navigated the silent hallways of our home, the pervasive aura of secrecy that shrouded my parents' work loomed over me, their whispers vanishing whenever I neared. It was in these moments, amidst the hushed mystery and the tense stillness, that the piano in the living room called to me, its wires not just strings of melody, but threads of an unspoken narrative, waiting for my touch to unravel the secrets they held. As a child, the piano in our living room was both my sanctuary and my battleground. It was an elegant, mahogany grand piano that sat imposingly against the wall, its polished surface reflecting the stern faces of my parents. I remember one particular evening that encapsulates those early years. I was practicing a complex Beethoven piece, my fingers stumbling over the keys in a desperate attempt to perfect it. The room was silent except for the piano's sound and my heavy breathing. "You're rushing the tempo, Dillis?" My mother's voice cut through the silence like a sharp blade. She stood by the piano, her expression unreadable. "I'm trying, Mother," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper as I started the piece again. My father entered the room, his presence adding weight to the already tense atmosphere. He rarely spoke during these sessions, but his silence was as heavy as any words. "Your daughter needs to focus more," my mother said to him without looking away from me. "She lacks discipline." "I'm doing my best," I protested, feeling a familiar knot of frustration in my stomach. "You will stay at this piano until you get it right," my mother declared, her tone leaving no room for argument. Hours passed, my fingers growing sore and my mind weary. I played the piece over and over, each mistake punctuated by my mother's sharp criticisms. Finally, my father, who had been watching quietly from the corner, spoke up. "Enough, Marianne. The child is exhausted. My mother looked at him, surprised. She needs to learn. She also needs to rest. She's just a child, my father said, his voice gentle but firm. I looked up at him, grateful for his intervention. My mother sighed, her expression softening slightly. Very well, but first thing tomorrow, you will continue. I nodded, relieved. Yes, Mother. As I grew, the piano became both my refuge and my prison, the keys echoing the complexity of my life. Yet, outside the confines of music and home, a different challenge awaited me at school, where isolation and misunderstanding formed the backdrop of my days. I remember walking through the school corridors, feeling the weight of isolation on my shoulders. My classmates whispered as I passed, their words like daggers. They saw me as different, unreachable, maybe even arrogant. But inside, I was just a girl, yearning for a friend, for someone to see beyond the facade. One day, Mrs. Harding, my English teacher, called me aside after class. "Dilys, is everything all right at home?" she asked, her eyes searching mine for a truth I wasn't ready to share. "Yes, Mrs. Harding," I replied, avoiding her gaze. "Everything is fine." She sighed, not convinced. "You know you can talk to me if you need to." I nodded, but words failed me. How could I explain the unexplainable? How could I reveal the secret bruises of my soul and skin? At home, the silence was louder than any conversation. One evening, my mother found me practicing piano, her cold gaze analyzing my every move. "You missed a note," she said sharply. "I'm sorry, Mother, I'll get it right," I replied, my fingers trembling as they found the keys. "Make sure you do," she said, turning away. "Perfection is the only option in this house." I resumed playing, each note a silent cry for help. My father occasionally appeared, a shadow in our lives. That night, he walked in during my practice. "You're playing beautifully, Dilys," he said softly. "Thank you, Father," I replied, surprised by his rare compliment. He nodded and left, his presence fleeting. I often wondered if he saw the pain behind my eyes, the plea for rescue. In my room, I allowed myself to cry. The walls of my sanctuary witnessed the tears I couldn't show the world. I dreamed of a life beyond these walls, a life where I was free to be myself, free from judgment and pain. But for now, I was trapped in a world where my voice was silenced and my spirit was caged. I longed for an escape, for a chance to spread my wings and fly away from the silent suffering and isolation that defined my existence. The day I decided to escape from my life's prison seemed just like any other. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the living room, where the piano stood, a symbol of my mixed love and resentment for music. I remember staring at it, feeling a surge of desperate courage. My mother entered the room, her eyes cold as she surveyed me. "Dilys, your practice was subpar today. What's wrong with you?" she snapped. I hesitated, my voice barely a whisper. "I'm just tired, Mother." "Tired?" she scoffed. "You think life cares if you're tired? Go and practice again, and this time, put some soul into it." I nodded obediently, but inside, a plan was forming. That night, after everyone was asleep, I tiptoed downstairs. My heart pounded in my chest as I gathered the canisters of gasoline we kept in the garage. The smell was strong, almost overwhelming, but it fueled my determination. As I poured the gasoline around the house, a sense of surrealism washed over me. I was about to burn down the only life I'd ever known. But then, I remembered my mother's harsh words, her strikes, and the loneliness that cloaked my existence. I struck the match, watching as it flared to life, its small flame a beacon of my impending freedom. I threw it at the gasoline-soaked floor, and flames erupted, greedily consuming the wood and fabric. I should have felt fear or regret, but all I felt was a deep, resonating relief. As the fire grew, I ran to the edge of our property, watching as the flames danced in the night sky. The heat was intense, even from a distance. Suddenly, my father's voice broke through my trance. "Dillis, what have you done?" he shouted, running towards me, his face illuminated by the fire's glow. I turned to him, my voice steady. "I'm freeing myself, Father." "Freeing yourself? By burning our home?" His voice was a mix of anger and confusion. I met his gaze, unwavering. "This house was never a home, Father. It was a prison, and I refused to be caged any longer." He looked at me, then at the burning house, and back at me. For a moment, I saw a flicker of understanding in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by his usual stoic expression. "You need to leave now," he said gruffly, "before anyone sees you." I nodded, turning away from the inferno and the life I was leaving behind. With each step, I felt lighter, as if shedding the weight of years of pain and sorrow. As I disappeared into the night, the last thing I heard was the crackling of the flames, singing a song of freedom and new beginnings. The world outside my former life was daunting, yet it pulsed with the promise of freedom. I remember wandering aimlessly, my mind a tumultuous mix of fear and exhilaration. After several days of wandering, my meager savings dwindling, I stumbled upon a small group of street musicians in a bustling town square. The music they played was raw and filled with emotion, a stark contrast to the rigid, classical tunes of my past. "Hey, you look lost," a voice called out to me. I turned to see a young woman with vibrant red hair, her eyes warm and inviting. "I'm Jessica," she introduced herself with a smile. I nodded, hesitant. "I'm Dillis," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Jessica's smile widened. "You have a look of someone who's been through a lot, but also someone who loves music." I glanced at the small band, a guitarist, a drummer, and Jessica, who held a violin. I used to play," I admitted. The guitarist, a lanky guy with a friendly face, chimed in. "You used to play? What instrument?" he asked, his curiosity evident. "Piano and violin," I said, feeling a pang of nostalgia. "That's awesome," he exclaimed. "I'm Regan, by the way. We could use someone with your talent. You want to join us for a session?" I was taken aback. Join them? Could I really step into this new world? I don't know, I hesitated. "Come on, it'll be fun. We're just playing for the people here. Nothing serious," Regan encouraged, handing me his violin. Taking the violin felt like reconnecting with a part of myself I thought I had lost. I nodded slowly, feeling a surge of something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. As we started to play, I felt the music flow through me, liberating and raw. I closed my eyes, letting the melody take over. When we finished, the small crowd that had gathered applauded enthusiastically. "You're amazing," Jessica exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "You have to join us." Regan nodded in agreement. "Yeah, Dillis, you bring something special to the music. What do you say?" I looked at them, their faces full of genuine warmth and encouragement. In that moment, I realized that this could be the beginning of a new chapter in my life. "Okay," I said, a smile breaking through the years of pain. "I'll join you." That day marked the start of my journey with music, not as a cage of expectations and abuse, but as a path to healing and self-discovery. With Regan, Jessica, and the rest of the group, I found not just music, but a sense of belonging and a glimmer of the happiness I had long yearned for. I remember the night that changed everything. We had just finished a late rehearsal, the air still vibrating with the echoes of our music. Regan was packing up his guitar, his fingers lingering on the strings. Jessica was nowhere to be seen, which wasn't unusual. She often left early. "Hey, Dillis," Regan said, breaking the silence. "You were incredible tonight. The way you lose yourself in the music, it's captivating." I smiled, feeling a blush warm my cheeks. Thanks, Reagan. It means a lot coming from you. He moved closer, his eyes holding mine. I've been meaning to talk to you about something, he began, hesitating slightly. I sensed the shift in his tone, my heart quickening. What is it? It's about us, he said, taking a deep breath. Dilys, I've fallen for you. Could we be more than just bandmates? I was hesitant at first, the scars of my past still tender. But his sincerity shone through, and I found myself nodding, my heart fluttering with a mix of hope and fear. Yes, Reagan, let's give it a chance. Before I could process my thoughts, the door swung open. Jessica walked in, her eyes darting between Reagan and me. Am I interrupting something? Reagan stepped back, running a hand through his hair. No, Jess. We were just talking about the band. Jessica's gaze lingered on me, a hint of suspicion in her eyes. Sure, she said, her voice edged. Anyway, I left my jacket. Our relationship blossomed like a melody in perfect harmony. Soon our son Cody was born, bringing a new rhythm to our lives. Reagan's eyes were full of love when he first held Cody in his arms. He's going to be an incredible musician, just like his mom, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But soon I was horrified at what was happening. I returned early from the store to grab something I forgot for our next gig. The van's back doors were ajar, and I heard muffled sounds from inside. My heart sank as I pulled the door open. There they were, Reagan and Jessica, tangled in a moment of betrayal. They sprang apart, shock and guilt written all over their faces. Reagan? My voice was a whisper, disbelief and pain mingling in the single word. Dilys, Reagan stammered, his eyes pleading. Jessica avoided my gaze, her face flushed with shame. Dilys, it's not what it looks like. Not what it looks like? I echoed, my voice rising. How else am I supposed to take this, Jessica? Reagan stepped towards me, reaching out. Dilys, please, let me explain. I stepped back, repulsion and heartbreak battling within me. Explain? How do you explain this betrayal? We didn't mean for this to happen, Jessica said quietly, her eyes now meeting mine. I shook my head, my vision blurring with tears. I trusted you both. You were my friends, my family. Reagan's face was a mix of regret and desperation. Dilys, I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. The pain was unbearable, like a sharp knife twisting inside me. Save it, Reagan. I don't want to hear it. Our relationship, once a beautiful sonata, ended in a dissonant chord. In the aftermath, Reagan took responsibility for his part, at least financially. He began contributing to our son's upbringing, ensuring that the essentials, food, clothing, education, were taken care of. It was his way of maintaining a presence in our son's life, albeit from a distance. As I navigated the complexities of single motherhood, I found strength in the love for my child. The child support payments from Reagan were a bittersweet reminder of what once was, but they helped provide stability in our new two-person harmony. Despite the heartache, I was determined to rewrite our story, creating a life filled with hope and resilience, a testament to our son's future. One day, I was wandering the streets of a larger city than I was used to, guitar strapped to my back, when a brightly colored sign for a music store caught my eye. It announced a competition sponsored by the Noda chain of stores. On a whim, I decided to enter, thinking it might be a good opportunity to get noticed. The competition was less intimidating than I expected. Most of the participants were school children, and the few adults there didn't seem like serious musicians. When it was my turn, I performed a piece with high notes that I particularly loved, and it went well, despite the surprise of seeing Reagan and Jessica in the audience. After my performance, Jessica approached me, her words laced with condescension. She gloated about taking Reagan from me, and boasted about sabotaging my guitar in the past. Anger boiled within me, and without thinking, my hand flew up and slapped her across the face. She stumbled back, shock written all over her face. I left the venue quickly, trying to cool off in the summer evening air. I sat on a bench in a nearby park, strumming my guitar, when a voice interrupted my thoughts. "You play well, Mrs. Smith," said a man, clapping as he stepped into the light of a nearby lantern. He was well-dressed and carried an air of confidence. "Good evening," I responded, forcing a polite smile. "Thank you." "I'm Lloyd, the organizer of this event," he said, sitting next to me on the bench. "Let's skip the formalities. I'm not a fan of unnecessary politeness." I chuckled softly. "I'm afraid I can't help it. It's ingrained in me." He laughed. "Well, congratulations are in order. You won. Your performance was captivating." I stared at him in disbelief. "I won? Really?" "Absolutely," Lloyd affirmed. "I'm looking forward to working with you." That conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Lloyd was charming, cunning, yet kind and understanding. He became not just a business partner but a friend, someone I could confide in and rely on. Our relationship developed quickly, and before I knew it, we were more than just friends. Lloyd proposed, and I said yes without hesitation. It felt right, natural. He had seen me at my worst and still stood by me, offering support and love. During our engagement, I often found myself reflecting on the past and how far I had come. Lloyd was a stark contrast to Regan, a breath of fresh air in a life that had been suffocated by pain and betrayal. He showed me what it meant to be truly loved and cared for. As we planned our wedding, Lloyd and I spent hours discussing music, our future, and our dreams. He understood my passion for music and encouraged me to pursue it, but he also made me see that there was more to life than my career. "I want you to be happy, Dilys," Lloyd said one evening as we sat on our balcony looking at the stars. "With or without music, as long as you're with me, that's all that matters." I leaned against him, feeling a sense of peace I had never known before. "I am happy, Lloyd, more than I ever thought possible." Our wedding day was a beautiful blur of joy and laughter. We were surrounded by friends, family, and music, the perfect combination. As Lloyd and I danced our first dance, I knew that I had finally found my place in the world. Lloyd gave me more than just love. He gave me a family, a sense of belonging, and a future filled with hope. With him, I rediscovered my love for music, not as a means of escape or a tool for survival, but as a source of joy and expression. As the days with Lloyd turned into months, our love grew into something deep and abiding, and we walked down the aisle in a heartfelt ceremony filled with music and joy. Soon after, our family grew with the arrival of our daughter Lily, marking the beginning of a new chapter as love and laughter filled our home. Life with Lloyd and our children was like a melody, harmoniously blending the notes of joy and the rhythms of everyday life. As I watched our children, Cody and Lily, play in the living room, a sense of fulfillment enveloped me. "Cody, be gentle with your sister," I called out, smiling at their innocent laughter. Lloyd walked in, his eyes reflecting the same happiness I felt. "They're growing up so fast, aren't they?" he said, wrapping an arm around me. I leaned into his embrace. "They are. It feels like just yesterday when we were planning our wedding." He chuckled. "And what a wedding that was! You singing like an angel, even with the baby bump." Our laughter mingled, creating a symphony of happiness. Cody, noticing our amusement, ran over with Lily toddling behind. "Mommy, Daddy, can we go to the park later?" Lloyd ruffled Cody's hair. "Of course, champ. How about after lunch?" "Yay!" Both kids cheered before scampering off. Turning to Lloyd, I said, "I never thought I'd find such peace. After all the chaos in my past, he kissed my forehead gently. You deserve every bit of happiness, Dilys. You've overcome so much. Just then, the phone rang, breaking the tranquility. Lloyd answered, his expression changing as he listened. Yes, she's here. No, she doesn't want to talk to you. I knew it was Reagan even before Lloyd mouthed his name. My past was calling, but I was determined not to let it disrupt our life. Tell him I'm not interested, I said firmly. Lloyd nodded, speaking into the phone. She's moved on, Reagan. You should too. He hung up and turned to me, concern in his eyes. Are you okay? I took a deep breath, feeling the strength that my new family gave me. I'm more than okay. I have you, the kids, our home. Reagan is just a shadow of the past. Lloyd pulled me close. And I'll always be here to make sure that shadow never darkens our door. As we stood there, united in our little world, I realized how far I'd come. The scars of the past were there, but they no longer defined me. In Lloyd's arms, with the sound of our children's laughter in the background, I found my truest melody, one of love, healing, and new beginnings. It was a crisp autumn morning when the past decided to stroll back into my life. I was at my favorite cafe, sipping coffee and lost in thoughts about a new song when he appeared. Reagan. He looked older, but still had that same confident swagger that I remembered all too well. Hello, Dilys, he greeted, his voice a mixture of nostalgia and something I couldn't quite place. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. Reagan, it's been 15 years, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. He sat down across from me, uninvited. Dilys, I've heard about your new life, your rich husband, he began, his voice tinged with envy and greed. I could sense where this was going. Yes, Lloyd has succeeded, but that's not your concern, I replied firmly. Reagan leaned toward me, a sly smile appearing on his face. I think it's only fair that you give me a portion of your new fortune. After all, I'm the one who paid you the elements. His audacity caught me off guard, but I kept my composure. You're wrong, Reagan. Any financial help goes to our child. I want him to have a happy and secure future. Reagan's eyes narrowed, but he saw the determination in my eyes. You owe me, Dilys, he insisted. I shook my head, my resolve unwavering. I don't owe you anything. My family and my children's future are my priorities. For a moment, there was silence between us. Then Reagan's expression softened. I'm sorry, Dilys. I truly am. I miss what we had. I sighed, feeling a twinge of pity. What we had is in the past, Reagan. I hope you find what you're looking for, but it won't be with me. He stood up, a resigned look on his face. I guess I had to try. Take care, Dilys. As he walked away, I felt a sense of closure. The chapter of my life with Reagan was finally, firmly closed. I turned my attention back to my coffee, feeling a renewed sense of peace. My life now was with Lloyd and my children, and nothing could drag me back to the shadows of my past. As I sit on the porch of our cozy home, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I can't help but feel a sense of profound contentment. The gentle strumming of my guitar melds with the evening's tranquility, a stark contrast to the turbulent symphony of my past. Lloyd, can you believe how far we've come? I ask, as my husband joins me, his warm hand finding mine. Lloyd smiles, his eyes reflecting the sunset. Every day with you and the kids is a reminder of how much we've grown, he replies, squeezing my hand. Cody, now 8, bursts out of the door, his little sister Lily trailing behind him. Mom, guess what? I learned a new song on the violin today. His face beams with excitement. That's wonderful, Cody. I can't wait to hear it, I say, my heart swelling with pride. Lily tugs at my dress, her big eyes full of eagerness. Mommy, when can I start piano lessons? Soon, my little star. You're going to be amazing, I assure her, ruffling her hair. As the children run off to play, Lloyd and I share a quiet moment. Do you ever think about them? He asks cautiously, referring to Regan and Jessica. I sigh, the shadows of the past momentarily clouding the present. Sometimes, but they're just echoes now, Lloyd. You, Cody, Lily, and our life together. That's my reality. Lloyd nods, understanding the unspoken words. They tried to contact you again, he says gently. I feel a flash of irritation, but let it pass. Let them live in their world. I've chosen mine, and it's here, with you and our children. Lloyd wraps his arm around me. You know, I've always admired your strength, Dilys. And your unwavering support, I reply, leaning into his embrace. The sound of Cody playing his violin drifts to us, a sweet, tentative melody that fills the air. Lily dances around him, giggling. I stand up, pulling Lloyd with me. Let's dance, I suggest, a smile playing on my lips. As we dance to the rhythm of our son's violin, under the canopy of the twilight sky, I realize that the music of my life now is one of hope and love. A melody that, despite its occasional dissonances, plays a beautiful, harmonious tune. This moment with my family is a testament to the journey I've undertaken, a journey from darkness to light, from chaos to harmony. Mom, Dad, you're dancing weird, Cody shouts, laughing. Lloyd and I laugh too, joining in the happiness of our children. This is my world, my choice, my life, and it's more beautiful than I ever imagined it could be.